Okay, so this is actually very serious, so I decided to try a new filter just to lighten the mood a little bit. You know, um, I did some research to look at the last time a specific generation came down here for the purpose of religious reform, and it turns out that that was during the Protestant church, when the Protestant church started to spread away from Catholicism. That was the last major church reform. It was like, oh, okay, so that was kind of big. That was huge. Okay, yep, that was the last religious reform. So, um, what have I noticed from my generation? My generation is more geared towards mainly we kept the structure of having a family. We kept the structure of believing in marriage. What did we change? You know that part where they used to teach that don't go study any other religion because you're gonna be tricked and pulled into evil and devilry stuff. You know. Okay, because there was Catholicism, and then the Protestants was like, you know what, that's kind of too strict. And now we're like, not to scare anybody because we're not that wild. We just like to understand why we believe what we believe. Now, me personally, I loved going to church. I loved, and there's a reason for that. So, just to give you a little bit of background story, I am extremely empathic. I assumed everybody pretty much had the same experiences at church that I experienced. And what I'm learning is a lot of my generation do have these experiences, but a lot of them end up questioning what's happening and think something's wrong with them. Ain't nothing wrong with you, okay? You came to change things, okay? For the better, for the better. So, extremely empathic. I loved going to church. I loved the act of praise and worship, ministry, especially if you had a good person presiding over the service to keep the energy high, the collective worship, the collective praise. I love all of that. If you said Icy, if you asked me Icy, how old am I now? If you said what you want to do for your birthday, you asked me that about ooh, I ain't do the math, okay? Let's just guesstimate about how old is 13 years ago. 13, 14, maybe 15 years ago. No, 13 years, just about 13 years ago. If you asked me, Icy, it's your birthday, what do you want to do? I would have told you every year prior, I want to find a good revival. That's what I want to do. Yep. I wanted to go find a good revival. Why? Because I love the display of spiritual gifts. I love the gift of prophecy. I loved how people would go up there to receive healing. I love the different way that the Spirit of God would communicate what people needed in the services. I lived for that. Like, to me, that was a party, a revival. Yeah, that was a party to me. And so, what's happening now? So, a lot of people in my generation are going through learning about other beliefs, other cultures. Most of us are actually mystics. But I was told by, and I'm trying not to make this video too long, I was told by a Native American woman in Washington State. She said, Icy. And first of all, I was so excited to get this reading from this Native American woman. I was so excited. But she said, Icy, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to respect every culture. It's a beautiful thing to, love the beauty of how they worship, how they communicate with God, how they do things. But she told me, she said, Icy, you gotta pick one thing or people gonna think you crazy. They're not gonna understand that you just love how people connect with God, how people talk with God, how people display their spiritual gifts, their knowledge, how they add the ritual to their lives. And most people will tell you, oh, rituals, that's witchcraft. Baby, a ritual is a routine. Everybody got a routine. Now, more than likely, if your Uranus is in Sagittarius, your routine fluctuates because you don't like being bored. Once it gets boring, it's time to study something else. That being said, that is how a lot of us became mystics. So, for the sake of people not thinking I'm actually crazy, I have been really weighing this thing out. If I was to pick one thing, what would it actually be over all the rest? Like, I struggled with that. I really struggled with that. I've been struggling with that for years. Because, like, one thing she told me years ago. Ooh, wait, I think my son that's getting ready to turn 11, I think he was like 2 or 3 when, no. Yeah, 2 or 3, maybe 4 when she told me this. So it's been a while now. I've been trying to narrow this thing down to just one thing. And it's hard. It's hard. And why? Because every culture, every spiritual belief system, every form of religion has had structure, beauty, spirit communication, which you know I love. But then each and every culture and belief system starts to get off into dogma that starts to spiritually kill people. And what do I mean by the church was killing people? Now, we're not talking about when Aries energy was taken over and everybody wanted to go to war and everybody wanted to fight. And it was like, you got to believe this way or they going to physically kill you. We're not talking about that. We're talking about dogma, people using the pulpit to tear other people apart, people using the church for gossip, people, so much, because I've been privileged to grow up and since a little kid to see the inner workings of how several different churches teach and function and train. So I think I was 19 years old when I started doing more administrative work within the church, and I was placed over the youth services. And what my role was at that time was to create a youth service in a way that young people could relate to what was being said, have their own interactions with God, be able to learn about their own spiritual gifts and start their journeys for themselves. What qualified me to do that is the fact that as a young person, that's what I was doing. I think I was like 8 and I was like, why we go to church all the time? I was like, why we always having shut-ins? Why people always coming over for prayer? Why Granny always speaking in tongues every day at 4 a.m. in the morning? We knew if we was at our grandma's house and you heard some tongues, it was 4 a.m. We knew that. So, how was the church spiritually killing people? I want to get into that a little bit more. And the reason I want to get into that is because as part of my generation's what we're supposed to do. Since becoming a Christian witch, and I have to say that a little lightly because, like I said, all of those in my generation are more so mystics because we have the greater respect of the beauty of every religious belief system and culture. We have that respect in their beauty, but we reject the dogma of every spiritual belief system and culture. We reject the dogma, okay? This video getting too long. I'll make another one.